Joining me now on the Daily Ledger Page 5 beat from Nashville, Tennessee, economic analyst, hedge fund manager, and contributor to Forbes and other major business publications, Thomas Landstreet. Tom, long term, we know what the Chinese are thinking, right? They're thinking, hey, we can outweight this president. Maybe we can drag out the talks, and then there'll be a Joe Biden. And I think it's a very, very dangerous game that they're playing there, because personally, I think the president's in good position for re-election. Plus, you're talking 18 months. So really, we're looking at a short-term window here, and the Chinese negotiate differently than the Americans. That's number one. And number two, now we have kind of a small window here before the $60 billion that the Chinese imposed on U.S. exports to China goes into effect. So you wonder if they might go pedal to the metal in these next 3 weeks.
Well, it's very hard to game this one, Graham. As you know, I'm an investor and I'm very worried about it, as like everyone, because I can't determine the outcome. I understand what Donald Trump's doing. I would say I probably agree with it. However, you got to look at the Chinese and you wonder what's driving them. And one thing I'll tell you is one of our demands is that their government not own or not subsidize businesses. But remember, the oligarchs over there own those businesses. Yeah. So these are the CEO of a company is also a major participant in the Communist Party. What we're saying to them is, get your company away from the government. They're not going to do it. And I just, that one is one where I know the oligarchs, again, are big in the Communist Party. They're inextricable. That's a real tough one for me. I don't know where that ends up.
I don't know. It could end up like Donald Trump himself, right? When he was sworn in as president, he had to build a firewall between himself as president and businesses. So it can be done. I mean, we have a guy in the Oval Office who proves it can be. But what worries me right now is other retaliation from China. For example, they could effectively, economically hold Apple hostage if they wanted to in China, because we know Apple produces in China. They're talking about maybe doing some damage to Boeing. And then they're also talking about possibly unloading T-bills. And we know that China holds what? Last I checked, I think it was 20, maybe 30% of our T-bills.
Well, that's a big risk as well. Another thing I might want to tell you, the Chinese are eager to save face. Saving face is more important probably than anything. And I believe it's because their government is on shaky ground. The Communist Party is always worried about an insurrection of the hoi polloi. But the guy's got to save face, whereas we don't have that pressure, which is, it just adds more of a chess game to this. As far as treasuries, you know, the last treasury auction, Graham, was very weak. It was one of the weakest in modern history. Remember, we've talked about the fact that the U.S. Treasury has to sell about $4 trillion of debt this year. Demand for that debt is very important. We have a treasury auction this Thursday. It's a large one. It'll be very, very interesting to see if China, is part of that, is going to participate or not. And this is another thing you brought up was gold. China has been increasing their purchases of gold rather significantly. As an investor, I decided to own gold precisely because of this.
So it's interesting with that T-bill, because we just got a report that the United States government in the first 7 months of this fiscal year was off the charts in terms of spending. It's spendaholics, spending money that we don't have. So we have to have people buy the T-bills in order to pay for the profligate spending that's going on in Washington, D.C. So you're right. Thursday's going to be a red letter day. Thomas, thanks.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.